Now, going over to the political bar podcast, you have a man who was arrested 51 times, now arrested again for hurting a woman. Now, this is coming to us thanks to Matt Van Swole, who says, quote, breaking, Dontavion Craig has been arrested a mind-boggling 51 times, was just arrested again yesterday for assaulting a woman in North Carolina, or Charlotte, North Carolina. He was released from jail 10 hours ago. When will this stop? Which, well, spoiler alert, never. It's leftist judges letting these people out time and time and time again. I was about to say time and time again. It's 51 times again. Because again, they just want their voters out, I guess. I'm only partially kidding. Yeah, this is reason number 10,348,475,006 do have a concealed carry permit and a firearm on you at all times that you're legally able to, especially if you're a gal. One of the most famous prolific quotes in history is God made man, but Samuel Colt made man equal, which, for those who might not know, Sam Colt was the original inventor of the revolver and subsequently the Colt Firearms Company. Now, granted, as well, the first commercial viable, successful repeating revolver, perhaps we should make that more modern. The quote should perhaps nowadays be, God made man, but Gaston Glock made man equal, which I would say most people do have Glocks these days. Revolvers are a very, I would argue, a luxury novelty to have, very nice, but not very, from a utilitarian perspective, Glocks are debatably just as reliable, a lot more capacity, easier to handle, but topic for another time, perhaps, in terms of what's the most optimal firearm. But if you're, a petite little gal who can't possibly beat up, like, a giant bodybuilder, and this guy, a pretty big guy, you can't beat him up. Neither can I. But you know what you could do? Have a firearm. It equals the playing ground pretty damn quick. Again, I find it disgusting that some Democrat cities make it so difficult, if not illegal sometimes, to have a concealed weapon on you. And some, depending on where you, again, I'm not a lawyer, though I do own a suit, some places you're not even allowed to defend yourself. In terrible places like New Jersey, instead of a stand your ground law, you have a right to retreat. So someone, even if you're in your own home, which I found so disgusting I can barely pontificate right now, if someone breaks into your house in New Jersey, you have to turn around and try to escape out the back door. Because legally, the burden is on you to remove yourself from that dangerous situation. Whereas other states, like the great state, or some might argue the great country of Texas, if you feel that your life is in danger, you can use deadly force to respond, to defend yourself and your family. I would argue which is a God-given right. And again, we've seen these pieces of shit 51 times. I understand that, and I understand that some people deserve a second chance. I have known people who dramatically turned their life around and became a great positive impact on the community. Again, that does happen. But 51 chances, now 52 chances? This is disgusting. And conspiratorially, are these judges just doing this so that people will eventually become vigilantes? And again, depending on where you live, maybe a judge and jury would just send you to prison. We've seen time and time again where good guys are treated worse than the bad guys. So that's another hesitation. Depending on where you live, you may or may not go to jail for defending yourself and your family. I would argue for doing the right thing. And this is yet another reason not to live in a terrible city like this. But again, I know some people have jobs that require them to be in those types of areas. And this went moderately viral, got 250,000 views, as well as 20,000 likes. One of the first comments come to us thanks to a conservative Carolina girl who says, quote, they don't care about citizens. I'm convinced they want pure chaos on the streets to scare folks into giving up their freedoms for security. Good. I agree. Gained 429 likes. Matt Van Swole responded saying, quote, when I first covered this, I assumed it was a rare but horrifying event. Now I understand the truth. It's not rare, and it's far more horrifying than I could have ever imagined. And again, cover your ears if you have children listening, because he gets pretty graphic. Violent rapes, sexual assaulters are being led on the streets of North Carolina every day, getting 326 likes. Which the famous musician, as well as Second Amendment advocate Ted Nugent, once said, I don't like repeat offenders. I like dead offenders. And again, if someone's trying to abuse a gal, that Glock will permanently solve that problem. And again, I'm not going to say they'll save them every single time. Again, a lot of people get nervous. So there are a lot of variables when it comes to being assaulted. I'm not saying it's going to magically make every situation perfect, but it gives them a fighting chance. And I find it so disgusting that some people want to get rid of guns, make it so that only bad guys have guns. It is ridiculous. Amelia Henderson says, quote, shame on the judges. And it's a screenshot from Naya Bukel, who says, quote, if you don't impeach the corrupt judges, you cannot fix a country. They'll form a cartel, a judicial dictatorship, and block all reforms, protecting the systematic corruption that put them in their seats. Getting 160 likes, 62 likes. Also, Liberty Pill Memes says, when judges start doing their jobs and keep doing their keep him in prison. There's a house burning called Law and Order, and the creepy girl looking at the camera says corrupt judges gained 47 likes. Playing on memes. Good to see you in comments. A little disappointed. Still no memes. I'll say this alleged playing on memes. Says this quote: "There should be no such thing as a career criminal like this. Judges must be held accountable for continuing releasing criminals back into society with just a slap on the wrist, gaining 71 likes." Yep. Again, it's not an original idea, but some people have tweeted, and I agree, that if a judge lets someone off the hook and they go murder someone, the judge should be liable for that. Very similar to the same instance where if you're a bartender and you overserve someone that you know is inebriated and they go out and do some terrible things, perhaps they get drunk driving, get in an accident, or take someone's life, the bartender is liable. There's some liability on that bartender because they knew this person was dangerous. They knew that they were not in a state of well-being to operate a vehicle or get home safely, and they kept serving them more drinks. Judges, I think, should have that same standard. You also have America as Trump, who has a picture of the judicial system stabbing Zerunska on the public transit. When again, that piece of shit was let out of jail 14 times before he stabbed her to death. Ukrainian refugee who tried to escape the violence coming over here, and instead was stabbed to death by a piece of shit who was let out of jail 14 times because, again, of an activist judge. Let's see here. Let's see. Miss Wilkins pattern recognition says they don't give a shit. It's a picture from an article that says Charlotte mayor wins landslide re-election despite controversial over Irana Zerutska slaying. Yep. They captured 70% of the vote after facing criticism of response to Ukrainian refugees stabbing to death on the city train. And 40 likes, which, God, yeah. The way people sometimes have that stupid saying, vote blue no matter who, is so asinine and stupid. Maria Isabella says, quote, "It's like they really learned nothing from Irna." It says, "Remember Irna? Because stay alert, monsters walk among us." It's a Miss Ruska. 130 likes. Let's see here. Western Patriot has this article from May 23rd, 2025 from Bradley Norman, who says, "Man abused a woman the worst possible way. Hurt in car crash instead of taking her to the hospital." Fort Lauderdale police say. Which, how much of a soulless monster you have to be to do that? Got 7 likes. Some people are having AI generated pictures of the judge eating a hot dog, being obese. And yeah, it's it. And again, they just voted for that asshole again. So I don't know how. I mean, obviously you need to get involved voting on a local level, and these activist judges are destroying society. They need to be primaried and voted out with extreme prejudice. But I mean, do you think enough people are waking up to the fact that, again, these judges are making everyone's lives miserable in these cities, and they'll maybe vote for someone else? Let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, directed to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. Greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how to make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone, everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.